All right, so welcome to another rapid fire business story of the week. This is part of our rapid fire series, and today we have an incredible guest with us, someone who's achieved extraordinary success and is here to share their unique business journey with you. We're excited to hear their insights, so let's welcome them to the show. All right, so as this is our rapid fire series, we've got 1 minute or less to answer each question. So in a minute or less, give us the elevator pitch to your story and your life. Go.
That's quite funny. I do not do elevator stories. I actually have just conversations with people, and depending on the target group or the person in front of me, I will adjust it a little bit just because I have several methodologies, several services, and so on. So you would have to give me a little bit more information there so I actually could adapt it. But anyway, I'm a psychotherapist, integrative psychotherapist, dance and movement therapist, art therapy therapist. I facilitate psychodrama, transcends, and much more. So I just love the healing part through creativity, let's say, and I work with several target groups.
So that's fascinating, and I would love to dig a little bit deeper. So tell us a bit more about what you're working on today that you're most passionate about and believe will have the biggest impact.
Okay, so at the moment I am working more and more with couples, also like cross-cultural couples. For example, a Latino with, I don't know, a European woman, for example, because there are lots of cultural differences. Also, the language aspect can really make sure that, the communication is not flowing and so on. And I just love doing that because it's all about human interaction and connection and helping people how to overcome things that may not be so important as they thought they were and focus on the connection and the love between the two people who initially chose each other, right?
So this next question is one that every entrepreneur has dealt with. Tell us about a time where you failed. We often say failure is the first step to success. So think about a time where you failed in the past. What happened? What did you learn from it?
I think it was when I was still working in a company, especially at a certain point, I was totally burned out, and it was a combination of several factors, but it felt as if I had failed. But honestly, I think it was just not a good match anymore. I had evolved, and it was not the right place for me. And then as an entrepreneur, I think that failure is an emotion that I would feel from time to time, but then it just goes away while I'm actually going through it.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. And we're definitely going to have you back on the show to dive deeper into each of these questions. But for now, one thing that I often say is, and I tell this to my employees and the people who work with me and for me all the time, is that when a tree falls in the forest, if nobody hears it, did that tree actually fall? This brings me to this next question. How do you make sure that all of these amazing projects that you're involved in get noticed? What marketing and advertising methods have worked best for you? You've got a minute. Let's go.
All right, honestly, I'm experimenting with several kinds of marketing. For example, I have Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, but then also I try to collaborate more with people. I have the newsletter. There are several things that I just do, like also podcasts, writing articles, publishing a book, and so on. And I honestly noticed that everything works a little bit. And you might think, why don't you choose one? But I'm a multi-passionate person, and I just love talking. I love writing. I love collaborating. I also need that as an entrepreneur. So that's a little bit why I do several things, and maybe one day I will find something that I feel like this is actually it, and maybe this is what gives me the best results as well. But as I'm still in the early journey of my entrepreneurship, I'm also open and very curious to try out several ways of marketing as well. Because for me, it's not only about the social media, for example, what many people talk about. It also is just about interacting with people and organizing events, for example, or workshops. And that's where sometimes I also get my individual clients from as well. And for me, that is much more nourishing than writing a post for social media. So I think all of them can work and can be interesting.
That was so awesome. We're definitely going to dive deeper into this on a later show. And as we approach our last question, before we ask people how people can get a hold of you, how people can reach you, learn more about the work that you're doing in your company, and we will include all that information in the show notes. What I wanted to ask you is, what is one piece of advice that you would offer to your younger self, to our audience, and to somebody, especially somebody who's just starting out in the same niche that you're in, but just doesn't know how to start or get going?
I think the most important part is just realizing that everything is a process and it's part of the process. And there will be moments when it's going to be difficult, self-doubt or fear or nerves or whatever is going to come up. And that is actually the moments where you will grow the most, because you're expanding and you're going out of your comfort zone. So it would be like, just don't give up and trust. It's about building up that trust in yourself, in your business, and you're shaping it while you're going. So yeah, life is just unpredictable, and that is what makes it adventurous and interesting as well. And it is the same with entrepreneurship. For me, it's a metaphor of how you stand in life and what happens in life and how do you deal with it.
Amazing stuff. We're going to have to thank our guest today for being a guest on Business Story of the Week. And before we cut out on this episode, I wanted to ask you, how can people get a hold of you? How can people learn more about what you're doing? And how do people engage with you? And we will transcribe this and put it in the show notes for everybody to find.
All right, so you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook under Moving Heart Therapy, and also my name, Mieke Vander Heyden. I also have a website, movinghearttherapy.com, and I also have a Linktree with free resources, for example, and podcasts and so on, and also a link to my Calendly where people actually can reserve a spot, a 30 free meet and greet session, to find out if I can actually offer what they're looking for, and maybe otherwise I can orient them in a better direction for them as well. And usually that's always really interesting and nice to meet people in that way as well. I prefer it a bit more personal, honestly.